Section 1 of As a Matter of Course. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Belinda McReynolds. As a Matter of Course by Annie Payson Call. Physical Care. Rest, fresh air, exercise and nourishment, enough of each in proportion to the work done, are the material essentials to a healthy physique. Indeed, so simple is the whole process of physical care, it would seem absurd to write about it at all. The only excuse for such writing is the constant disobedience to natural laws which has resulted from the useless complexity of our civilization. There is a current of physical order which, if one once gets into, gives an instinct as to what to do and what to leave undone, as true as the instinct which leads a man to wash his hands when they need it, and to wash them often enough so that they never remain soiled for any length of time, simply because that state is uncomfortable to their owner. Soap and water are not unpleasant to most of us in their process of cleansing. We have to deny ourselves nothing through their use. To keep the digestion in order, it is often necessary to deny ourselves certain sensations of the palate which are pleasant at the time. So by a gradual process of not denying, we are swung out of the instinctive nourishment current, and life is complicated for us, either by an amount of thought as to what we should or should not eat, or by irritations which arise from having eaten the wrong food. It is not uncommon to find a mind taken up for some hours in wondering whether that last piece of cake will digest. We can easily see how from this there might be developed a nervous sensitiveness about eating, which would prevent the individual from eating even the food that is nourishing. This last is a not unusual form of dyspepsia, a dyspepsia which keeps itself alive on the patient's want of nourishment. Fortunately, the process of getting back into the true food current is not difficult if one will adopt it. The trouble is in making the bold plunge. If anything is eaten that is afterwards deemed to have been imprudent, let it disagree. Take the full consequences and bear them like a man, with whatever remedies are found to lighten the painful result. Having made sure through bitter experience that a particular food disagrees, simply do not take it again and think nothing about it. It does not exist for you. A nervous resistance to any sort of indigestion prolongs the attack and leaves a brain impression which not only makes the same trouble more liable to recur, but increases the temptation to eat forbidden fruit. Of course, this is always preceded by a full persuasion that the food is not likely to disagree with us now simply because it did before. And to some extent, this is true. Food that will bring pain and suffering when taken by a tired stomach may prove entirely nourishing when the stomach is rested and ready for it. In that case, the owner of the stomach has learned once for all never to give his digestive apparatus work to do when it is tired. Send a warm drink as a messenger to say that food is coming later. Give yourself a little rest and then eat your dinner. The fundamental laws of health in eating are very simple. Their variations for individual needs must be discovered by each for himself. But, it may be objected, why make all this fuss? Why take so much thought about what I eat or what I do not eat? The special thought is simply to be taken at first to get into the normal habit, and as a means of forgetting our digestion, just as we forget the washing of our hands until we are reminded by some discomfort, whereupon we wash them and forget again. Nature will not allow us to forget. When we are not obeying her laws, she is constantly irritating us in one way or another. It is when we obey, and obey as a matter of course, that she shows herself to be a tender mother and helps us to a real companionship with her. Nothing is more amusing, nothing could appeal more to Mother Nature's sense of humor than the various devices for exercise which give us a complicated self-consciousness rather than a natural development of our physical powers. Certain simple exercises are most useful, and if the weather is so inclement that they cannot be taken in the open air, It is good to have a well-ventilated hall. Exercise with others too is stimulating and more invigorating when there is air enough and to spare. But there is nothing that shows the subjective, self-conscious state of this generation more than the subjective form which exercise takes. Instead of games and play or a good vigorous walk in the country, there are endless varieties of physical culture, most of it good and helpful if taken as a means to an end, but almost useless as it is taken as an end in itself. For it draws the attention to oneself and one's own muscles in a way to make the owner serve the muscle instead of the muscle being made to serve the owner. The more physical exercise can be simplified and made objective, the more it serves its end. To climb a high mountain is admirable exercise, for we have the summit as an end, and the work of climbing is steadily objective, while we get the delicious effect of a freer circulation and all that it means. There might be similar exercises in gymnasiums, and there are indeed many exercises where some objective achievement is the end, and the training of a muscle follows as a matter of course. There is the exercise instinct. We all have it the more perfectly as we obey it. If we have suffered from a series of disobediences, it is a comparatively easy process to work back into obedience. The fresh air instinct is abnormally developed with some of us, but only with some. The popular fear of draughts is one cause of its loss. The fear of a draught will cause a contraction. The contraction will interfere with the circulation, and a cold is the natural result. The effect of vitiated air is well known. The necessity not only for breathing fresh air when we are quiet, but for exercising in the open grows upon us as we see the result. To feel the need is to take the remedy as a matter of course. The rest instinct is most generally disobeyed, most widely needed, and obedience to it would bring the most effective results. A restful state of mind and body prepares one for the best effects from exercise, fresh air, and nourishment. This instinct is the more disobeyed because with the need for rest, there seems to come an inability to take it, so that not only is every impediment magnified, but imaginary impediments are erected, and only a decided and insistent use of the will in dropping everything that interferes, whether real or imaginary, will bring a whiff of a breeze from the true rest current. Rest is not always silence, but silence is always rest, and a real silence of the mind is known by very few. Having gained that, or even approached it, we are taken by the rest wind itself, and it is strong enough to bear our full weight as it swings us along to renewed life and new strength for work to come. The secret is to turn to silence at the first hint from nature, and sleep should be the very essence of silence itself. All this would be very well if we were free to take the right amount of rest, fresh air, exercise, and nourishment. But many of us are not. It will not be difficult for anyone to call to mind half a dozen persons who impede the good which might result from the use of these four necessities, simply by complaining that they cannot have their full share of either. Indeed, some of us may find in ourselves various stones of this sort stopping the way. To take what we can and be thankful not only enables us to gain more from every source of health, but opens the way for us to see clearly how to get more. This complaint, however, is less of an impediment than the whining and fussing which come from those who are free to take all four in abundance, and who have the necessity of their own especial physical health so much at heart that there is room to think of little else. These people crowd into the various schools of physical culture by the hundred, pervade the rest cures, and are ready for any new physiological fad which may arise, with no result but more physical culture, more rest cure, and more fads. Nay, there is sometimes one other result: disease. That gives them something tangible to work for or to work about. But all their eating and breathing and exercising and resting does not bring lasting vigorous health, simply because they work at it as an end, of which self is the center and circumference. The sooner our health instinct is developed and then taken as a matter of course, the sooner can the body become a perfect servant, to be treated with true courtesy and then forgotten. Here is an instinct of our barbarous ancestry which may be kept and refined through all future phases of civilization. This instinct is natural, and the obedience to it enables us to gain more rapidly in other higher instincts which, if our ancestors had at all, were so embryonic as not to have attained expression. Nourishment, fresh air, exercise, rest. So far as these are not taken simply and in obedience to the natural instinct, there arise physical stones in the way, stones that form themselves into an apparently insurmountable wall. There is a stile over that wall, however, if we will but open our eyes to see it. This stile, carefully climbed, will enable us to step over the few stones on the other side and follow the physical path quite clearly. End of section 1.